Hey guys, it's Penelope in London, and I'm going to be looking at Chiron in hard aspect to the moon, and I'm going to give you a bit of a lesson with my own chart. So if you can play this video with your own chart, get your own chart up and bring it to the table and look at it, because you can begin to look at degrees, and I'm going to show you how you do that and understand aspects. I'm also going to refer to Chiron, the Healing Journey by Melanie Reinhardt, and just a little bit on there on aspects to the moon, Chiron aspects to the moon. But first of all, I've got my chart in front of me. You can see here. And this is the current transits going on. You can see the transits are on the outside of the chart. And on the inside, you have the natal planet. So I'm a Scorpio rising, and I am 0 degrees here, Gemini sun, and I'm a Gemini moon. And the reason I know, if you're not into astrology, you haven't looked at it before, with your birth time, you actually get your rising sign. And when you have your rising sign, then you know what houses you have. So my first house is part Scorpio, and then it goes into Sagittarius, and then my second house is Capricorn, and my third house is Aquarius, and so forth. And this is called porphyry in evolutionary astrology. That's what we use. And generally what we would do is we start with Pluto and the North Node and the South Node. There's my North Node and my South Node, past life. What we do is, though, we're looking at Chiron, which is really important for our healing at this time. We've basically on lockdown, and the evolution of humanity is at this time that we're looking at our own personal wounding so that we can integrate it and move beyond the pain. Because what happens is, when we're not healed or when we're disassociating, then we will project our pain onto other people. And you might see that, you might have a bad day, or you might be remembering childhood stuff, and you go into what's called the fight, flight, freeze, which is to do with complex PTSD. It's a natural response if we're afraid of something real. But generally, when we're doing that with regard to memories, it means that we need to heal our triggers and our memories. And what Chiron shows us is where we're hypersensitive, what we've come into this world with. And for me, it was Chiron in the fourth house on my IC, because my IC is 20, and that orbs into Chiron there. And then I've got also a weaker conjunction there, or not to the IC, with Saturn. So there would have been a lot of restriction in my home. The fourth house is to do with parenting, and so is the 10th house, patriarchal as well. So this is really important work. It's not something to take lightly, because I'm going to show you some tips of how you can really begin to solve your hypersensitivity by looking at your chart. So with transits, I will show you that I had my Chiron return. Chiron takes 49 to 51 years to orb a chart. So I was born, and this was my chart, and Chiron was at 25 degrees there, and it's gone all the way around. And then in 2017, it was conjunct Chiron, then it conjuncted my Saturn, and then it's going off now. Now, with this in Aries, collectively, what we're doing is we're healing ourselves first. So it's almost like we have to mature now. It's a point where we are stepping into our own future and, reparenting ourselves. This is really important at this time. So let me show you before I go on. I'm going to expand this chart here, and hopefully you can see this. If you might need to use the bigger screen if you're on a laptop or a computer, but you can see here, with this box down here, all of these that you see here are transposed up here. So let's give an example. Let's go to, because the bit we can see, there's my Neptune. So if we go to Neptune on the chart here, there's the Neptune. It's in sextile to my Pluto. So you can see that Neptune is sextile to my Pluto. So if we go here, this is a sextile, it's 60. There's my Pluto, there's my Neptune. And then, but we're going to look at Chiron now. So Chiron is not all, doom and gloom, and doesn't mean we don't heal. It means that, we integrate our healing bit by bit, and it's not all or nothing. So, we have our good days and bad days. We're human. So let's look at my Chiron here. My Chiron is trine to my South Node. So we've got Chiron and it's trine. This is 120 degrees, which is a flowing energy to my south node. There's 25 degrees there and it's 25 there. So if you measure this going around this way, you'd be able to see, or from there to there, you'd be able to see that it's 120 degrees. Then we've got my Chiron is sextile to my north node. Now this is very beneficial for that wound that I've had, that I've experienced, that it's benefiting to the world. It's part of my path in my life to, show others how to heal. So you can see Chiron here, sextile to my north node in Taurus. Then we have Chiron is opposition to my Pluto. So we go Chiron, there's my Pluto up there, opposition to my Pluto. Then we have, going back to this, we've got Chiron trine my Neptune, and then conjunct my, you see there, that's a conjunct Saturn. So that's a conjunction. That makes it really powerful, conjunctions. And then we have also square to my Jupiter, which is the bigger picture and truth and religious, spirituality, stuff like that. So my Jupiter is here, you can see, and there's a square, 90 degrees. And then we have Chiron sextile to my Mars, which is really nice. Sextile Mars, my direction, Chiron sextile Mars. And then we have Chiron sextile Mercury, so my thinking as well and communication. I do a lot of work talking to other people, talking about healing. How do we heal our stuff, our imprints? And the astrology is part of that. Astrology was our first form of psychology. Then we have it squares my moon, which is difficult. Chiron square the moon. And this is what we're talking about, the hard aspects today. There's my moon, square. And then we have it's sextile to my sun. And my sun is here, so it's a sextile. And then we can go down this way as well. And it's trine to, this will scare you, Lucifer. Don't worry about that because Lucifer is actually the bringer of light. And then it's also, Chiron is trine to my ascendant. So here, so it's, how I'm showing up in the world, with this wound or hypersensitivity. And then it's also opposition to my MC. Okay. So the hard aspects to the moon, I have one. Everybody's going to have this different way, like snowflakes, we're all different. So you look at your own chart and see what hard aspects do you have to the moon. But then also what we have to understand is that as this Chiron, Chiron moves around the chart through our life, it will aspect, I'll show you on solar fire in a moment, it will aspect the moon. So here's my moon. So as this goes round, it's going to make different aspects to the moon. Now I've shown you that, I'm going to go to my solar fire and show you new share and go to this page. And let me get my pointer. This is really important work. And if you want to do this with me and understand, I'll really be able to help you. So this is today's date. This is the 24th of October, 2020. And we've got the planets are on the outside. You can see here are the transits right now. So for instance, this is the collective chart, what's going on the outside. We all know in astrology, the astrologers know that we have got the Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter conjunction going on. And also I've got Venus currently on top of or Mars on top of my Venus, because we've got retrograde. You see that R there, that's retrograde. Mars is retrograde. We've got retrograde, also Chiron. And we've also got retrograde Uranus. And we have, let's see, retrograde Mercury for a few more weeks. And it will go forward in a couple of weeks from now in Scorpio. And the sun, you see here, 1 degree of Scorpio. It's been in Scorpio for just 1 day. If I take this chart forward for you, I'm going to go by a few days. So if we're going to go a week ahead, watch this up here. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you can see that, Mercury's gone backwards. The sun's now gone to 8 degrees because that's 8 days forward, 8 degrees of Scorpio. The sun takes 1 degree a day. So now I'm going to show you what this means. I'm going I'm going to go back to, for me, my first transit that was difficult, which was transit Chiron opposition my moon. And I was 34 years old. I'm 54 now. So this was 20 years ago. So I'm going to go back to 2000, the year 2000. And I want you to see this. So look at this currently. My Chiron's here, but I'm going to go back to the year 2000. So what you can see here is that you've got Chiron there and my moon is up here. So this would have meant that would have had Chiron opposition my moon. So what would that have meant? This is what a hard aspect means. You know, this is what we're talking about, hard aspects. So the moon at this time, it says, an extreme event or something else is causing emotional pain, which seems to be welling up from the past and threatening to take over the present. It is true that this person or event has sparked some inner wound, but you have the opportunity now to heal the past and move forward. You need to be aware of the fact that the other person or the event may not have intended to hurt you. It is simply that they have triggered a deep subconscious memory which is causing you pain. And the pain may be attached to emotional wounds connected with your mother or your early childhood at that time. So now when I was going through that, if I bring that up to 17 degrees actually, and I go, we're going to go weeks ahead. So it would have gone, there you go, it's 17. So 17 degrees, that's an absolute opposition. And at that time, I did have a very unfortunate situation going on when I was 34. I was partying a lot and I was hanging out with not so great people. And I was extremely hurt by some people, you know, emotionally at that time. So that was when I had my opposition. Then what would have happened next as the Chiron moves around the chart, it begins to hit the moon in a different way. So the next time it hit the moon for me was when I was 37, and it was a quincunx, which is an inconjunct, which is 150 degrees. So if I go to, 3 years ahead, we're going to go to 34, 35, 36, 37. I'm going to go 3 years, having to count here, but this is good work we're doing, so bear with me. 1, 2, 3. So we would have had at this point a few more degrees. We would have had, basically the inconjunct here. So there would have been 150 degrees between here and here, my natal. And this is the transit Chiron, what we're looking for. So the inconjunct to the moon, Chiron inconjunct the moon, its grief is a key phrase for this transit as you are forced out of your normal comfort zones. This could be literally moving away from home and loved ones or needing to come to terms and let go of unresolved emotions. Either way, you are likely to feel moments of sadness. If you go with the flow and allow your emotions an outlet, then you will benefit from the cleansing effect of a complete grieving process. So I did go through a complete grieving process because I'd left all the people behind from my past. I was 37 and I had to live somewhere for a while that was really uncomfortable and go backwards, take a few steps backwards before I started going forward again. And, my life began to develop again in a new way. And when this happened, because we also have retrogrades going on, that went forward a bit and then it goes backward because Chiron goes to, retrograde every year for about 5 months. And when it does, it can hit a planet twice as it does that, or 2 or 3 times, depending on when it goes retrograde. So thankfully, I surpassed that. It was really, I remember the situation myself. It was very intense that I went through. Now, the next one, I would have been 39. So that would have been, working that out, what year would have that been? 4 minus, and that would have been 15 years ago. So we're looking at 2020 minus 15. That would have been 2005. Okay, so let's look at that there. So I can help you do this with your chart as well. You'd be fascinated to see how correct these planets are. So at this point, in 2005, this would have been called a sesquare, which is 135 degrees from there. And this would have been a situation where I would have felt a lot of emotional frustration. And it would have been a time that forced me to slow down and reconsider my actions in the light of past events. and my, it would have been to do with my comfort, and providing an extra source of frustration as well would have been going on. There would have been extra sources of frustration. So if I go back to 15 years, 40, I was deciding, I was in a frustrating situation, and I decided at that point that I actually wanted to live on my own. And, I was searching for somewhere to live on my own, to feel comfortable living on my own. The next one I'm going to do is Chiron. Well, I did have a beautiful trine. I know I'm doing the hard aspects here, but when I think it was 18 years ago, 54 minus 42. So 12 years ago, I moved and I was living on my own. That year would have been 2020 minus 12. That would have been 2008. Okay, so in 2008, I hope I'm keeping you here with me as I'm doing this. So 2008, I would have had this going on here, and this would have been a trine to my moon here, which would have been a lovely flowing energy. So if I push this forward a bit by weeks, we want it at 17 degrees. There you go. So here to here, that was a trine. So what does a trine mean as a good aspect? Because it's not all bad with Chiron, know that much. So when it was trine and I was age 42, it says opportunities for existing healing past emotional wounds. This may happen in dreams or daydreams or through the appearance of a special teacher or a healer. You are particularly insightful and compassionate, and your loved ones find your wisdom comforting. So, I was going through some lovely changes at that point. But then what happened was, it matters not, but I had the point where I got my square, which would have been, in fact, I'm going to do this through years to shoot so you can see this move. So if I go, a square is 90 degrees. So I want this at 19 degrees Pisces. So you can see here, we've got that. And when it hit 19 degrees Pisces, let me show you, week back, that would have gone retrograde, so it would have gone back again. And I would have had a couple of hits of this. So this is going back. And it would, you see the Chiron here, 20 degrees. So let's just take it from here because it's quite a close square. So at this point, what would have been going on would have been that I would have also been coming up to my Chiron return. So because that's 25 degrees. So that would have been 2016. And at that time, I was going through massive changes, and I was coming up to also, I had a breakdown, like a personal emotional breakdown at the end of 2016, which was, on hindsight, it was very beneficial to me. And it really began to clear up my past, and I went to get help with trauma psychoanalysis a couple of years after that. So there you go. That was my Chiron return. That was 2016. And it was a difficult time. It went back, watch that Chiron there in Pisces, then it went forward, you can see it moving, and it goes back, hits it again, then it would have gone on and caused more restriction by hitting my Saturn, and that was 2017, and then it would have gone back over here again. So I was having a really difficult time. But what does that square mean to when it was square at 19 degrees, 17 degrees to my moon? That meant that I was experiencing an emotionally difficult time during which I was being forced to face a painful memory or events, while this is obviously a difficult time, you have the opportunity to heal the past and move forward. You can use many different avenues to alleviate your troubles, ranging from simply surrounding yourself with compassionate friends to exploring alternative healing therapies. And it is important that you treat yourself and others kindly. Your dreams may also hold keys to your present day predicament. Tears may flow, but it is ultimately a time of healing and education. And this was probably the most pivotal time in my life with the people that came into my life. and also the things that I began to learn, the modalities. I learned, a modality in neuro-linguistic programming. I learned modality in tapping. I became a practitioner, got a status in that. And in NLP, I began to do my astrology. I was beginning to leave spirituality behind because I found it wasn't hitting the wound on the head. So I went on to looking at complex PTSD. And for the last 3 years, that's what I've been doing and studying and learning and helping people online with my knowledge and in groups that I've formed and meetups. So I've been doing loads of work. So we can also look at the book, and then I will leave it there for today. And I've got one more hard hit from this side, which will be when there will be an octile. It's called a semi-square. It's 45 degrees away, and that will happen for me. But I'm prepared now because I know astrology, and also other nice things are happening. So it's not just one thing in a chart. We look at the chart totality. So in 2023, I'm going to have a nice sextile. Chiron will sextile my moon in 2023. And in 2027, I will have what's called a semi-square to my moon. Okay. So now let's read this bit from the book, Melanie Reinhardt, the Chiron and the Healing Journey. I'll put the link below the video. And I'm going to go back to this other chart, actually. I'm going to do a new share, and I'm going back to this chart, which you can go and get your own chart at www.astro.com. And she says here that when Chiron aspects the moon, the relationship with mother usually features. She may have been emotionally inadequate in our needs, or perhaps she resented motherhood and would have rather been doing something else. We may have felt rejected or abandoned or at some critical stage, like Chiron, or we may have assumed a mothering role very early in our own lives for a variety of reasons, but before we have received enough mothering ourselves. And that was true for me because I had siblings, so I was very much having to mother them in various ways as I was growing up, when I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, very young. I was the oldest of 5. We may have mothered our mother if she was ill or depressed, or looked after numerous siblings in a large family. Just said that, hey. Later, we may become stuck in the role, being super mothers, or moving beyond this would mean feeling the suffering, anger, and emotional deprivation underneath. So the thing is, we can do that with partners. If we don't heal this stuff, we can end up taking people and mothering them. So we really got to watch out for this, because we have to live our own lives too. One person with the moon opposite Chiron felt rejected by her mother, who had hope for a son. She herself became a mother very young, and after missing several children, she worked in old age homes. She tried her whole life to do it better than her mother, and went into crisis after her first daughter sought therapy because of their relationship. Her world crumbled when she realized that her daughter felt wounded by her in spite of every effort to the contrary. At her Chiron return, which I mentioned to you I had in 2017, we all have this, yeah? So you want to look at that as well, wherever you will have that. If you're younger, you're going to have it for 49, between 49 and 51. And the whole point of it is that as that Chiron moves around the chart, we are healing different areas of our lives, and as it aspects different planets. So she continues, at her Chiron return, she courageously embarked in the task of rebuilding her sense of identity, including aspects of her nature that had been left out because of her strong identification with the mother role. So I could go on, but I'm not going to read the whole lot there. Thanks for listening to this, and I hope it's really assisted you somewhere to understand your own wounding. And please do subscribe and book with me if you want to go further on this. Thank you for watching.